The TLEA from THG Void. The Grand Council Chamber of the Silveran Alliance had never been so silent. 12 species represented by their most distinguished diplomats watched in growing horror as the holographic transmission played before them. Ambassador Thelix, a tall Medusan with flowing tendrils and typically calm demeanor, trembled visibly as the footage showed entire worlds being consumed by what appeared to be a writhing mass of darkness. 3 star systems gone in less than a lunar cycle. Thelix's voice cracked. Our outposts at Proxima Valyria and Hestronine have fallen silent. The entity, whatever it is, appears to be moving toward our core worlds. Our scientists estimate 6 standard days before it reaches Silvera Prime. Billions will die. High Chancellor Vexlor, the eldest member of the council, raised a translucent hand. What of our defense fleets? Obliterated, Thelix replied. Our weapons seem to pass through the entity without effect. It simply absorbs everything in its path. We've begun evacuations, but there's not enough time or ships. We need help. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The Andromedan Republic is 3 weeks away at maximum FTL, offered one counselor. The Centaurian battle cruisers are engaged in the Orion conflict, said another. Vexlor's compound eyes narrowed with grim resolution. There is one option we have not considered. The counselors exchanged uncomfortable glances. They knew what he meant. The humans, Vexlor continued. Their Arcturus outpost is less than 2 days from Silveran space. Murmurs of disbelief and concern rippled through the chamber. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage only 30 standard years ago. They were considered primitives by most advanced species, curious, aggressive beings from a high-gravity, high-radiation death world that had somehow survived their violent tendencies long enough to develop spaceflight. Impossible, protested Ambassador Krell of the Regellian Conclave. The humans are barely civilized. Their ships are crude, their weapons primitive. What could they possibly do against a cosmic horror that our advanced fleets couldn't stop? Vexlor's gaze remained steady. You forget, Ambassador, that we have only seen what the humans have chosen to show us. A troubled silence fell over the chamber. The Treaty of Galactic Cooperation requires all signatories to disclose military capabilities, Krell argued. And yet, Vexlor replied softly, none of us truly believe the humans have been entirely forthcoming, do we? No one disputed this. There had always been whispers about the Deathworlders, rumors of technologies that operated on principles most civilized species considered too dangerous to pursue. Humanity's rapid advancement from planetary conflicts to interstellar travel had been unprecedented. Too rapid, some suspected. They are a prideful species, Vexlor continued. They joined our alliance on the condition of equal standing, despite their youth. They chafe under our restrictions and what they perceive as condescension. But they are also fiercely protective of innocent life. Vexlor gestured to the frozen image of worlds being devoured. I propose we send a direct appeal to the human outpost at Arcturus. Not through diplomatic channels, but a raw distress call that bypasses the usual protocols. And if they reveal capabilities beyond what is permitted by our treaties, asked Krell. Then we will face that dilemma after our people are saved. Vexlor answered simply. The motion passed with reluctance. Within the hour, a desperate plea shot through subspace toward human territory. Unfiltered, undiplomatic, a naked cry for help from one sentient species to another. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the observation deck of the United Earth ship Thunderbolt, watching the stars as the vessel drifted in patrol formation around Arcturus Station. At 42, with steel-gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much combat, Reyes commanded respect from her crew without demanding it. 23 years in the Earth Defense Force had taught her that genuine respect was earned in crisis, not in peacetime drills. Her quiet contemplation was interrupted by the voice of her XO, Commander Jackson Way. Captain, we've received a priority alpha transmission directly from Silveran space. It's unusual. Rice turned, noting the concern in Wei's expression. Unusual how? It's not coming through diplomatic channels. It appears to be a raw distress call, sent on all frequencies, and it's not encoded. That was unprecedented. The Silveran Alliance, like most advanced galactic civilizations, prided itself on proper protocols and carefully worded communications. "Show me," Rise ordered, following Wei to the nearest terminal. The message was brief, desperate, and accompanied by sensor data that made Rise's blood run cold. Something was consuming entire worlds, and it was heading for the Silveran homeworld. "Verify this data," she commanded. "Run it through all filters. I want to be certain this isn't some kind of test or trap." While the ship's AI processed the information, Rice stared at the footage of the strange, dark entity. In 23 years of service, she had encountered phenomena that defied conventional understanding, but nothing like this. An hour later, the bridge of the Thunderbolt hummed with tense activity as Rice addressed her senior staff. "The data checks out," she began. "Something is consuming Silveran worlds, and their conventional defenses are useless against it. They've reached out to us because we're the closest potential help. Their homeworld has less than 6 days before this entity reaches them." Lieutenant Commander Daya Patel, the ship's science officer, displayed enhanced images of the phenomenon. "It appears to be a form of dark energy with properties similar to both matter and antimatter, but operating on principles we don't fully understand. It's absorbing everything it encounters. Radiation, matter, even light itself. Can our weapons affect it?" asked Wei. Patel hesitated. "Conventional weapons, unlikely. But our special package might have an effect." The room fell silent. The special package referred to the experimental weapons systems installed on the Thunderbolt and 4 other ships in the human fleet, technologies that operated on principles the Silveran Alliance had prohibited in their space. "That creates a diplomatic problem," said Commander Wei. "The moment we deploy those systems, we reveal capabilities we've deliberately kept hidden." Reyes nodded. "I'm aware. That's why I've already contacted Earth Command. They've given us authorization to respond to the distress call with full capabilities. The diplomatic fallout will be handled later." She stood, surveying her officers. "Let's be clear about what this means. For 30 years, humanity has maintained the fiction that our ships operate within Alliance technological parameters. That ends today. Once we engage this entity, every species in the Alliance will know what humans are truly capable of." "Is that such a bad thing?" asked Lieutenant Reza Nazari, weapons officer. "We've been playing nice with species that think we're barely out of our Stone Age. Maybe it's time they understood why Deathworlders are not to be underestimated." "This isn't about pride, Lieutenant," Rice said sharply. "This is about saving billions of lives. If we succeed, the Alliance will know what we're capable of. If we fail, it won't matter. Either way, the relationship between humanity and the other species changes forever after today." She straightened her uniform. "Contact the Perseus, the Artemis, the Valiant, and the Hyperion. All 5 ships will deploy with full loadouts. Prepare for emergency FTL jump to Silveran space." As her officers hurried to their stations, Reyes turned to gaze out at the stars once more. Humanity had always walked a delicate line in the Alliance. Too aggressive, too innovative, too willing to take risks that older species considered reckless. The restrictions placed on human technology had been the price of admission to the galactic community. But some dangers transcended politics, and sometimes the universe needed what only Deathworlders could provide. Within 3 hours, 5 human warships, officially classified as medium patrol vessels in Alliance registries, broke formation around Arcturus Station. Their sleek, dark hulls absorbed rather than reflected light, a property that had raised questions among Alliance scientists, but which humans had dismissed as merely aesthetic. On the bridge of the Thunderbolt, Captain Rice gave the order that would change the course of human-alien relations forever. "All ships, prepare quantum fold drives for synchronized jump. Target coordinates: The edge of silver in space. Quantum fold drives spooling up, Captain, reported the navigation officer. Synchronization in progress. Unlike the conventional FTL systems used by Alliance species, which warped spacetime, the quantum fold drive, officially non-existent in Alliance records, created a temporary pocket dimension that allowed ships to travel distances the Alliance believed impossible. All ships report ready, Captain, said Y. Rice took a deep breath. Execute fold jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, fold. Reality itself seemed to bend around the 5 ships as they slipped between the fabric of spacetime, accelerating toward the endangered Silveran worlds at speeds that would have made Alliance scientists declare the instruments faulty. As the ships hurtled through the quantum fold, Reyes couldn't help but wonder, once the Alliance saw what Deathworlders were truly capable of, would they ever trust humans again? Reyes took a deep breath. Execute fold jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, fold. Reality itself seemed to bend around the 5 ships as they slipped between the fabric of spacetime, accelerating toward the endangered Silveran worlds at speeds that would have made Alliance scientists declare the instruments faulty. As the ships hurtled through the quantum fold, Reyes couldn't help but wonder, once the Alliance saw what Deathworlders were truly capable of, would they ever trust humans again? Or would they finally understand why Earth's harsh conditions had forged a species that refused to accept defeat, even against the darkness between stars? When DEATHLU or LDERs fight, the quantum fold collapse deposited the 5 human vessels at the edge of Silveran space with pinpoint precision. The navigation officer on the Thunderbolt confirmed their position as the ship's sensors immediately began scanning the surrounding sector. Status report, Captain Rice demanded, her eyes fixed on the main tactical display. All ships present and accounted for, reported Commander Way. Minor power fluctuations on the Perseus, but they're stabilizing. Sensors are detecting the entity approximately 6 light hours from our position, moving toward the Silveran homeworld. Science Officer Patel's voice was tense as she analyzed the incoming data. Captain, the entity is... It's massive, nearly 15 astronomical units in diameter and growing. It's consuming everything in its path. Planets, asteroids, even solar radiation. On screen, Rise ordered. The main view screen adjusted to show what appeared to be a writhing darkness against the backdrop of stars. A cosmic void that seemed to devour light itself. Where it passed, stars dimmed and planets vanished, leaving nothing but empty space. My God, whispered Y. Any communications from Silveran forces? Rise asked, her voice steady despite the horrific sight before them. Yes, Captain, replied Communications Officer Chen. Multiple distress signals. Their evacuation fleet is attempting to evacuate the outer colonies, but they're losing ships along the entity's advancing edge. The Silveran High Command is requesting our assistance. Open a channel to all Silveran vessels, Rise ordered, and to our strike group. When the channel opened, Rise spoke with the calm authority that had earned her command of Earth's most advanced warship. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the UES Thunderbolt. To all Silveran vessels, concentrate on evacuation procedures. Fall back to your homeworld. We will engage the entity. A stunned silence followed before a heavily accented voice responded. Human vessel, this is High Admiral Zex of the Silveran Defense Fleet. Your assistance is appreciated, but our most powerful weapons have proven ineffective against this phenomenon. With respect, what can 5 medium patrol vessels hope to accomplish? Reyes allowed herself a small smile. Admiral, I suggest you maintain a safe distance and observe. Thunderbolt out. She turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Nazari, deploy quantum sensors. I want detailed analysis of that thing's composition and any potential vulnerabilities. Aye, Captain. Deploying quantum sensor array. The quantum sensors, technology officially beyond humanity's development level according to Alliance records, began collecting data that conventional sensors couldn't detect. Captain, Paddle reported after analyzing the incoming data. The entity appears to be a form of exotic matter operating on 11-dimensional principles. It's creating micro-tiers in space-time that allow it to essentially digest matter at the quantum level. Can our phase disruptors affect it? Rise asked. Patel nodded slowly. Theoretically, yes. The disruptors operate on similar principles, but in reverse. However, given the entity's size, even our combined firepower might only wound it, not destroy it. Rise considered this information. Then we start with a wound. Contact the fleet. All ships to form attack pattern Delta 7. Prepare phase disruptors for synchronized firing. The 5 human vessels moved with precision that belied their supposed technological limitations, arranging themselves in a geometric pattern that would focus their weapons' effect. On the Silverin command ship, High Admiral Zex and his senior staff watched in bewilderment as the human vessels positioned themselves. "What are they doing?" asked his second-in-command. "Their formation makes no tactical sense for conventional weapons." Zex's compound eyes narrowed. "I suspect, Commander, that we are about to discover what the Deathworlders have been hiding." On the Thunderbolt, Rise gave the order. "All ships, charge phase disruptors to maximum capacity. Target the leading edge of the entity. Fire on my mark." The 5 ships began to emit a low-frequency hum that reverberated through space itself as energy built up in weapons systems that violated at least 3 Alliance prohibitions. "Phase disruptors at maximum charge, Captain," reported Nazari. "Fire." 5 synchronized beams of blindingly bright energy lanced from the human ships, converging at a single point on the entity's leading edge. Where they met, space itself seemed to ripple and tear as the phase disruptors forced the 11-dimensional phenomenon partially out of phase with normal spacetime. The entity reacted immediately. A violent shudder ran through its entire form, and a portion of its mass, roughly the size of a small moon, separated from the main body, dissipating into normal space. "Direct hit," exclaimed Nazari. "We've disrupted approximately 2% of its total mass." "It's changing course," Paddle reported urgently. Captain, it's coming for us." The entity accelerated, its formless mass surging toward the human ships with impossible speed. "All vessels, evasive maneuvers," Rise ordered. "Prepare quantum shields." Another technology supposedly beyond human capability, quantum shields created a bubble of altered spacetime around each ship, theoretically impervious to conventional attacks. The entity slammed into the Perseus first. For a moment, the quantum shield held, a shimmering barrier between the ship and utter destruction. Then, to the horror of those watching, the shield began to fail as the entity seemed to adapt, probing for weaknesses in the human technology. "The Perseus reports shield failure imminent," Chen called out. Reyes's mind raced. The phase disruptors had wounded the entity, but hadn't stopped it. And now it was learning, adapting to their defenses. "All ships, full retreat," she ordered. "Fall back to Rally Point Alpha. We need to regroup." As the human vessels disengaged, the entity gave chase, seemingly drawn to the energy signatures of their advanced drive systems. At Rally Point Alpha, 1,000,000 kilometers from the engagement zone, Captain Rice convened an emergency conference with the commanders of the other 4 ships. "The phase disruptors heard it, but it's adapting quickly," she summarized. "Ideas?" Captain Hiroshi Tanaka of the Valiant spoke up. "My science officer has a theory. The entity feeds on energy, from stars, from our weapons, from our drives. Each time we attack, we're essentially feeding it new information and new energy to consume. So conventional tactics are useless," Rice concluded. "We need something unconventional." Captain Sarah Chen of the Artemis leaned forward. "What about the quantum resonance torpedoes? They were designed to disrupt dimensional anomalies." "Too risky," countered Captain Miguel Rodriguez of the Hyperion. "A dimensional cascade failure could affect the entire system, including the planets we're trying to save." Rice listened to the debate, her mind turning over possibilities. Then, slowly, an idea began to form. An idea so reckless that only humans would consider it. "What if," she said carefully, "instead of trying to destroy this thing with energy it can consume, we give it something it can't digest?" The other captains looked at her questioningly. "Captain Tanaka, you said it feeds on energy and information. What happens to biological systems when they consume something toxic?" Understanding dawned on Tanaka's face. They either reject it or suffer catastrophic system failure. "Exactly," Rise nodded. "I propose we create a quantum information paradox and feed it directly into the heart of that entity." Captain Chen frowned. "A quantum information paradox? You mean like the ancient grandfather paradox thought experiment? That's theoretical physics, not a weapon." "It is now," Rise replied grimly. "Our quantum computers can generate self-referential equations that have no solution, mathematical and logical constructs that contradict themselves at the quantum level." Rodriguez looked skeptical. "And you think this cosmic horror will, what, choke on bad math?" "I think," Rise said slowly, "that an entity that processes information at the quantum level might experience the equivalent of a seizure if forced to process inherently contradictory information. It's worth trying before we resort to weapons that might destroy the very star systems we're trying to save." After intense debate, the captains agreed to the plan. Each ship's quantum computer, yet another technology officially beyond human capability, began generating paradoxical algorithms and self-contradicting quantum states. "We'll need a delivery system," Rise mused. "The entity won't simply accept this information." "What about the fold drive?" suggested Wei. "We could modify one to create a controlled dimensional pocket inside the entity, then collapse it while dumping the paradox data." Rise nodded grimly. "Which means one ship has to get inside that thing." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The implications were clear. Such a mission would likely be one way. "The Thunderbolt will do it," Rise said finally. "The rest of the fleet will provide distraction and cover." Despite protests from the other captains, Reyes's decision stood. The Thunderbolt had the most advanced systems and the best chance of surviving long enough to deliver the payload. Hours later, as the human fleet prepared to re-engage, the Silveran evacuation ships watched in disbelief. High Admiral Zex had refused to retreat beyond observation range, determined to witness whatever the Deathworlders were planning. "They're going to attack again," he said incredulously, "after seeing what that thing did to their shields." "Humans," his second-in-command said simply, as if that explained everything. The human ships moved into formation, with the Thunderbolt at the center. The other 4 vessels began launching a barrage of conventional weapons and decoys, creating a chaotic energy pattern that drew the entity's attention. On the Thunderbolt's bridge, Rise strapped herself into the command chair. All hands, secure for extreme maneuvers. Quantum shields at maximum. Fold drive modified for collapse sequence. Paradox data package ready for upload. The ship trembled as the modified fold drive spooled up, drawing power from systems throughout the vessel. "Captain," said Wei quietly, "it's been an honor." Rise met his gaze steadily. "The mission's not over yet, Commander. Let's show the Alliance what humans do when the stakes are high." She turned to the helm. "Take us in. Full speed." The Thunderbolt surged forward, driving straight toward the heart of the cosmic horror, while its sister ships provided covering fire from multiple vectors. The entity reacted, sending tendrils of darkness to intercept the human vessel. The quantum shields flared as they absorbed the attack, holding just long enough for the Thunderbolt to penetrate the entity's outer boundary. Inside the void, all external sensors failed. The ship was engulfed in absolute darkness that seemed to press against the hull from all directions. "Shields failing," reported Nazari, his voice tight with tension. "Hull integrity at 64% and dropping. Fold drive at critical mass," added the engineering officer. "Collapse sequence armed and ready. Paradox data package locked in," confirmed Patel. "Upload ready." Rise took a deep breath. "Begin data upload." Prepare to initiate fold collapse on my mark. As the paradox data streamed from the Thunderbolt's quantum computers into the surrounding void, the ship's systems began to fail one by one. Emergency lighting cast the bridge in an eerie red glow. Upload at 67%, reported Patel. The entity, Captain, I think it's trying to make sense of the data. Sensors show energy patterns consistent with information processing. Hull integrity at 41%, warned Nazari. We can't take much more of this. Upload at 89%, Patel continued. Captain, the entity's cohesion is fluctuating. I think it's working. Fold drive reaching critical overload, the engineering officer called out. We need to initiate collapse now or we lose the drive entirely. Rice hesitated, weighing the options. An incomplete upload might not be enough, but waiting too long would mean losing their only way out. Upload at 94%, said Patel. The ship groaned as the pressure increased. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Nazari. Emergency containment fields holding. Upload complete. Patel announced triumphantly. Initiate fold collapse. Rise ordered immediately. All hands brace for dimensional shift. The modified fold drive engaged, creating a pocket dimension that briefly separated the Thunderbolt from the entity's interior. In the same moment, the paradox data package fully integrated with the entity's quantum structure. The result was immediate and catastrophic for the entity. Unable to process the inherently contradictory information, its quantum structure began to destabilize from within. As the Thunderbolt's fold bubble collapsed, the energy release catapulted the ship back into normal space, damaged but intact. Behind them, the cosmic horror writhed in what could only be described as agony. Its formless mass contracted and expanded erratically as the quantum infection spread throughout its structure. It's working, breathed Wei, watching the sensor readings. The entity is losing cohesion. Over the next hour, the human fleet maintained a safe distance as the entity continued to destabilize. Finally, with a silent flash that momentarily outshone the nearest star, the cosmic horror collapsed in on itself, condensing into a singularity that quickly evaporated in a burst of Hawking radiation. Where the entity had been, only empty space remained. 3 days later, Captain Rice stood before the Silveran Grand Council, the commanders of the other 4 ships at her side. The Thunderbolt remained in orbit, undergoing emergency repairs with the unexpected assistance of Silveran engineers. High Chancellor Vexlor regarded the human officers with a complex mixture of gratitude, awe, and unmistakable concern. Captain Rice, he began formally, the Silveran Alliance owes humanity a debt that cannot be easily repaid. You saved billions of lives at great risk to your own. We responded to a call for help, Rice replied simply. As any sentient species should. Indeed, Vexlor continued. However, your ships displayed capabilities significantly beyond what Earth has officially declared to the Alliance. Technologies that violate several provisions of our Treaty of Galactic Cooperation. A murmur ran through the assembled counselors. Rice had expected this conversation, had prepared for it. Chancellor, she said, meeting his gaze steadily, humanity joined the Alliance in good faith, but we also recognized our unique position. We evolved on a world that most Alliance species would consider uninhabitable, a high-gravity, radiation-bathed Deathworld that forced us to become adaptable, resourceful, and yes, sometimes aggressive. She gestured to the stars visible through the council chamber's transparent dome. When we encountered species that had been spacefaring for millennia, while we were still developing written language, we made a choice. We would learn, we would contribute, but we would also maintain certain insurance policies. Weapons, stated Ambassador Krell flatly. You kept illegal weapons secret. Technologies, Rice corrected. Technologies that saved your people. Technologies that could have been deployed against the Alliance at any time over the past 30 years, but weren't. Because despite what many believe about humans, we don't seek conflict. We prepare for it, yes. But we prefer cooperation. Vexlor's compound eyes studied her intently. And now that these technologies are known to us, what would you propose? Reyes had discussed this question extensively with Earth Command during the 3-day journey to the Silveran homeworld. A new understanding, she replied. One that recognizes that different evolutionary paths lead to different approaches to survival. The Alliance fears certain technologies because your species developed along paths where such tools were too dangerous to control safely. Humanity developed alongside those dangers, adapted to them. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. We propose that instead of hiding these technologies, we work with the Alliance to establish new protocols for their controlled use, specifically for threats that conventional approaches cannot address. Debate raged in the Council for hours. Some councilors demanded sanctions against Earth for treaty violations. Others argued that the human intervention had proven the value of maintaining alternative technological approaches. In the end, a compromise was reached. Human technologies would be officially acknowledged, but restricted to specific vessels designated for emergency response to existential threats. A joint oversight committee would be established, with representatives from all Alliance species, including, for the first time, a human with equal voting rights. As the council session concluded, High Admiral Zex approached Reyes privately. I must ask, he said, his translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in his voice. Why did your people answer our call? You knew it would expose secrets you had kept for decades. You risked your ships, your lives, for a species that has often treated humans as primitive newcomers. Reyes considered the question seriously. Admiral, humanity has a long history of fighting against impossible odds. It's written into our DNA from surviving on a world that tried to kill us every day. When we hear a cry for help, something very deep inside us responds. She smiled slightly. Besides, we Deathworlders have a saying. The true measure of a civilization isn't how it treats its equals, but how it responds to those in need. Zex's translator beeped as it processed her words. A wisdom we would do well to remember, he acknowledged finally. Perhaps there is more to learn from Earth than we have admitted. As Reyes returned to the Thunderbolt, she gazed at the Silveran homeworld below. A world of billions saved because 5 ships had answered a desperate call from the void. Relations between humans and the Alliance would change forever after today, but perhaps for the better. The Deathworlders had revealed their teeth, yes, but they had used them to defend, not to conquer. And that, Reyes reflected, might finally help the galaxy understand humanity's paradox, a species forged in adversity, capable of tremendous destruction, yet driven by an equally powerful instinct to protect. Against the darkness between stars, perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed.